Hello Malty, mountains out of a molehill, and thank you to Robert Rogers for that malt mention. I'm Ralphie, this is the Bothy, and you have arrived to watch Ralphie Review 921 Extras, in which I focus in on the packaging that came with a bottle of whisky I bought late last year. And it's all very pretty and it's all very nice, but I find that it's pissing me off, and I want to tell you why. Now, I've just reviewed in my last review, 921, this really very pleasant, nicely made. I mean, there's no question about it. This is a well-made whisky. You can't deny it. This is Glengoyne 18-year-old, bottled at 43% and bottled at natural colour. So they haven't added E150A into the bottling for the very simple reason there's absolutely no need. And if they did, it would do more harm than good. But when I bought this whisky, this is the box that it came in, and this is really what I'm going to talk about. This is how it works. You see that? Close it over, and then you put the lid on top. It's made of recycled cardboard. And what you've got to do is you've got to be careful, because if you lift it at the top, there's a risk the lid will just pop off, because it fits snugly but not tightly. So you've got this large box, which I'm now going to compare side by side with something much more realistic and practical. And this is the packaging for Ardnamurchan single malt. And with Ardnamurchan, they're an environmentally conscious distillery. They are using biomass as fuel, and I would imagine that at the moment Ardnamurchan are absolutely delighted they're not relying on gas. So you have this cheap, and it comes across as cheap, cardboard box in which the bottle, very nice too, is placed. You know that with this kind of blown cardboard, it's the way they manufacture it, they blow it through jets into sheets, that once you've opened the lid about half a dozen times, it's just going to fall off, because it is simple, environmentally friendly packaging. That's what it is. That's what simple, environmental friendly packaging looks like. Standard, functional, and it suits the size of the bottle. So when you put it into cases for delivery to the retailers or to the distributors, you have less volume to be transported, and it reduces your costs. With the Glengoyne, the cardboard box is twice the size it needs to be. But that's only just the start of it. So I'm going to remove the Ardnamurchan out the way, because as far as I'm concerned, this is environmental packaging done right, where the emphasis is not on theatre, it's on showing you a little bit of the map, giving you a little bit of information, and that's it, to the point. No particular, what I call flannel. With the Glengoyne, lots of flannel. You see, you've got to split the box open, then you lift out your bottle, and I'll put the bottle aside because I won't be needing that now, and I'll put my glass aside because I don't want to knock it over. And what you have is, when you rip it open, they've stuck a box outside a box, and the inside box, as you can see, is clearly bigger than it needs to be. You could bring that in at least, 2 centimetres? And then you've got this outside cover box that kind of folds in and out, and we're advised by the writing that this box is made of recycled paper, which I don't doubt for 1 minute. And we're advised in the box, the packaging for this Glengoyne 18-year-old is easily recycled and made from 79% recycled materials. So far so good. But I want to ask you, malt mates, what would you recycle this empty box as? Would you put it empty on your malt stash somewhere? Would you continue to keep the bottle in it until you'd finished the bottle? Would you store something else in it? I mean, it's not airtight. It's not like a tin whiskey container that you could use for spaghetti. What would you actually use it for? And I would suggest, being realistic, that 99.9% of people who buy this whiskey are going to take the box and either burn it in the garden fire, burn it in their coal fire, or jump up and down on it to flatten it and put it into the recycle bin. This isn't the sort of container you want to keep. Now, if it was an Ardbeg warehouse tin, it says Ardbeg and it shows the warehouse with the green roof, you want to keep that because it's something special. It looks good in your whiskey shelf. But this, I mean, are you going to put it with all the rest of the packaging that you keep? Absolutely not. And I find myself asking the question, how much for this unnecessarily extravagant, wasteful recycled container? How much is it actually costing me in the purchase price? And if this hadn't been created in the first place, could the distillery have spent the money in putting an extra 3% into this bottle and marking it unchill filtered 46% volume, natural colour and integrity bottling, thereby enhancing, improving and further delivering the quality of the whisky they're producing? It gets worse, because they're proudly explaining, and I'll need my steampunker in this because it's metallic writing, which is always difficult to read. While we respect the past, we also care about the future. Our liquid waste is cleansed in carbon dioxide capturing reed beds, and our solid waste is harvested for enough energy to power 354 homes each year. All very commendable, admirable, and it's a very good thing to be investing in greening your brand. So far so good. Just like the geese who visit our glen each winter, we harness the power of the wind. Okay then, right. To help us reach our destination by sourcing all our electricity from turbines. So, with every sip of Glengoyne, we raise our glass to a greener future. Righto. Well, Glengoyne, I'd like to help you raise your glass to a greener future by suggesting that you downsize this completely impractical, over-the-top, unnecessary, totally unwanted packaging, which is flying completely in the face of what you're stating in the outside of the box. This decision has been made by a senior decision maker, and I want to kind of add to that this is a great distillery, but honestly, the senior decision makers, the owners of the distillery, the owners, need to have a serious overview about where their single malt distillery is at and look to Springbank for references. Glengoyne could be the next Springbank. It really could. It's got the quality, it's got the calibre, it's got the identity, it's got the signature of taste. It could be much more popular than it is if you didn't have this disruptive marketing pretentiousness, sending very mixed messages to the customers. Am I wrong? It's just an opinion. I'm on record as stating that I've got a lot of time for Glengoyne. It's one of my favourite distilleries. I used to visit it when I was over living in Glasgow, fairly regularly, just to smell the mash tuns and hear the stills hissing. Because I've always been obsessed about such things, simple as that. I was even invited in by Glengoyne, for which I'm very grateful, to interview Duncan, an authentic, genuine, time-served, proper distillery character. And he opened the doors to me and gave me freely of his time, and I really appreciate that. And I was more than happy for Glengoyne to use my videos as part of their official website. But we're 15 years, 20 years down the line now. And what I'm looking at here is it's a completely disjointed marketing message. After spending the money in installing reed beds and in recycling waste products from the distillation process, which is always commendable and frankly to be admired and encouraged, but then to put out your product in this sort of presentation, which immediately to any experienced whisky drinker now says an extra £5 in the price. And nobody's going to keep this. I'm not going to keep it, I'm going to burn it. What else am I going to do with it? So many bottles of whisky come in packaging, and it's simply unnecessary. It's adding additional unnecessary cost which should be in the product and not in blinging it up in the shelf as people walk by in some high-end tourist trap or travel retail store where they don't care how pretty the whisky looks in this packaging, because they all look pretty, all of them. But which one's got a 20% discount on it? That's what the consumer's bothered about. They just want something that looks pretty at the cheapest price, because frankly, they don't particularly care about the taste, because they've never bothered to slow down, spend the time and develop their palate. Am I being snobby? Yeah, and I don't care. Because it's true, and you know it's true. So Glengoyne, I would love to see you discontinue using this sort of presentation, because your product does not need it. Have more self-confidence, have more self-belief, and cut your costs. And stop contradicting the message that you're putting on the box by creating a box which undermines it. Excuse me. There we are. There we go. I'm recycling this. I'm being responsible and recycling this in the local recycling bin. I will keep this. It will have pride of place on my whisky shelf for a few years to come. I'm Ralphie. Hope you've enjoyed this extras. And if you have, please subscribe. I also have a Patreon channel if you'd like to subscribe to that. You can join just for the price of a wee dram per month. It's very inexpensive and you'll get additional videos and content. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing you again when I will be making a revisit to Clynelish 14-year-old from Diageo. It's a good whisky, but I'm telling you now, in Ralphie Review 922, I want to tell you how it's changed. See you then. Bye-bye.